A big part of surviving and thriving in the shearing industry involves recovering from the intense stress that the job places on the body. Shearers are by nature tough individuals, often ignoring intense fatigue and pain and pushing their bodies to the limit. However, it is greatly advantageous for the shearer to have good strategies for recovery. This will include both recovery from day-to-day stresses of shearing or short-term recovery, as well as longer-term recovery from the injuries and illness that most shearers will experience during the course of their career. In both cases, it is worth looking to professional sports, as they have invested a great deal of time and money in finding and researching the most effective recovery methods.
The best methods I find for recovering from heavy training sessions are certainly the ice baths, and I don't really get in an ice bath, but just to have a cold bath because it just freezes everything up. So it's become very common to have hot and cold baths straight after, even in between a heat and a final at something like an Olympic Games. Straight after your heat you'll go back and you'll have hot and cold baths just to flush the waste products out of your body, so you'll be ready for the final tomorrow. And definitely massage is, I started out by being a bit reactive, so I'd have a massage after I'd get sore, whereas it became so important to me that I used it beforehand as a preventative measure. But it's fantastic for recovering from hard sessions, and also obviously stretching down. A lot of people talk about stretching before an event, whereas it's most significant, and studies recently have shown it's more important to actually stretch down after the event when your muscles have worked hard, and then instead of just stiffening up straight afterwards, if you can gradually decrease the workload on them, then you won't pull up as sore the next day.
At the end of a day's work, a shearer could use short-term recovery methods such as ice baths, hot-cold therapy, swimming warm-downs, massage and stretching. Ice baths are used by the majority of professional athletes around the world. Not many athletes enjoy them at first, but after getting used to them, most will continue to use them throughout their career because they are effective when used immediately after exercise. They assist in decreasing swelling and muscle soreness, and many athletes report benefits in reducing mental fatigue and promoting good sleep. 5 to 10 bouts of 30 to 60 seconds in the bath will be a good starting point, and methods can then be adjusted as the user becomes more familiar with the technique. Depending on outside and water temperatures, the amount of ice added will vary. In some climates, the water temperature is such that little or no ice is required. Hot-cold therapies involves alternating periods of hot and cold water. This can be done with baths, showers, or a combination of both, depending on what is available. Up to 10 bouts of 60 seconds hot followed by 60 seconds of cold will be a suitable starting protocol. This method will promote the circulation and removal of waste products that build up in the muscle due to fatigue. A swimming warm down can involve swimming or any kind of movement in water. This can be done in a pool, a lake, a dam, or best of all in the ocean if working in coastal regions. Keeping activity at a low level will promote circulation and ensure no further lactic acid is built up. Combining stretches and whole body movements will produce the best results, and time periods anywhere upwards of 5 minutes are suitable. Massage is probably the most enjoyable and certainly one of the most effective recovery methods. Although the cost is often considered prohibitive, it needs to be looked at as an investment. The money spent on a fortnightly or monthly massage can often repay itself by avoiding injury due to muscle stiffness and imbalance. A cheaper option used by many athletes is to self-massage parts of the body that are easily accessible, such as the calves and thighs. Some of these recovery methods can be combined with each other, such as stretching in water, stretching following an ice bath, or self-massage in a pool or bath. For example, immediately after an international level rugby game, a player will start by consuming water and electrolyte drinks while doing gentle stretching. A session of ice baths will then be followed by more stretching, fluid replacement, and finally a post-game meal. Some post-game functions and celebrations still exist, but not until the full recovery routine is finished. Effective methods vary between individuals, and it is most important to find a method that works for you and is realistic for your work environment.
I think recovery is pretty individual. I think a lot of guys do a lot of different things. I think from my personal point of view, I tend to enjoy having maybe a swim the day after, or just getting up and getting out and about rather than just sitting around, because the more movement you get, the less stiffness and those sort of things you got. And I mean, whilst it is good just to sit and relax and that sort of stuff, you need a good balance, because the quicker you recover, the quicker you're able to bounce back. And I think that's extremely, especially in my sport. I mean, you have Sunday off, and come Monday you've got to be ready to go again at 100%, so you do whatever is right for you.
Also important in short-term recovery is the role of good diet and hydration methods. Some basic guidelines are outlined in the handbook, and there is a great deal of scientific evidence and information available on this topic. However, the shearer, like the athlete, will need to combine such information with his or her own experience.
Surprisingly, diet wasn't actually all that significant early on in my career. It was almost, toughen up, like if you drink water, you're weak and that sort of stuff. But as I developed and had such a long career, certainly hydration became a big issue, and taking drinks during races and just making sure you look after yourself, carbohydrate lead in, and then even carbohydrates after the race, just to help with your recovery. So really it wasn't all that significant, but it's become such a vital part of making sure you get the best out of yourself, certainly in training, and then in a race situation to maximise the training that you've done by eating and topping up your energy stores as best as you can.
One of the most difficult things that any high performer must do is to find the balance between work and recovery. This is often very difficult, but if the body is pushed too far for too long, without adequate recovery, a state of overtraining will occur. Overtraining occurs when the body is unable to recover completely from the workloads that it faces, and there will be a progressive decline in performance as a result. In an overtrained state, the body is more susceptible to illness and injury, so effective skills must be developed to manage this difficult task.
The signs I look for overtraining are certainly one, it's a simple one. I take my pulse every morning and it's normally 36 or 37. If it's outside 10% of my normal levels, I know that I'm either sick or I'm overtraining. So if it gets over 40, I say, oh, better have a quiet day today. So I refine my training to allow for that. So that's a very simple one. Anyone can do it. Just I take it lying in bed just before I get up. So when your horizontal's better because you haven't kick-started your heart for the day, so that's a good time to take it. So a simple one to do that. Also, if you're not sleeping all that well, if you're having a bit of disturbed sleep, you'll often go off to sleep really well, but then you wake up and you can't get back to sleep. That's another sign that I'm overtraining. So, and just that, I reckon after a while you get experienced enough to know your body, you get those aches and pains that don't go away. Normally if I do a hard session today, I'll get sore in a couple of days, those types of things. If it hangs around a bit longer, you have more than one niggle, you have a few, you start thinking, gee, I'm stressing my body here, I'm just under pressure, and I read those signs very well. So I think there's some anecdotal stuff. You know your body better than anybody. There's a couple of clear indicators that I use, but the rest of it's a bit of gut feel and knowing when I'm just pushing myself too hard.
Although the goal of all recovery and monitoring methods is to reduce injury risk, the complete avoidance of injury in a tough profession such as shearing is unlikely. Almost all shearers, like athletes, will experience some level of injury during the courses of their career. However, a well-planned recovery can be the key factor in a successful return. Wallaby Dan Vickerman has recently returned from a lengthy injury period in career best form, surpassing his previous bests in terms of strength and endurance during his rehabilitation.
I think I've had a few injuries of late, the last 2 or 3 seasons, where I've had some shoulder problems. I've had a few operations, a couple of reconstructions, and I think the most important thing to come out of that is to focus on what you're going to gain rather than sort of complain about the injury at the present time, to sort of get a good amount of goals set out, work hard on those goals and come out of the injury better than you were. And I think every time I've done that, it's been quite beneficial because you're able to work on the strengths and weaknesses that you perceive yourself to have. And if you can do that and come out of that amount of time after the injury, to know that you've worked on those goals and achieved them, I think it's quite a beneficial time.
Whether short-term or long-term, good recovery is driven by the performer himself. Professional advice is necessary and beneficial, but the key to good recovery is the development and maintenance of good habits. These habits should include stretching, water therapies, and good strategies for diet and fluid replacement. An investment of time in learning recovery strategies that work for you is an investment that will repay itself many times over.